The first time I came across the Quays was in Time Out, in a London edition. I saw a picture of them in their studio, I think. Obviously they're twins, it's very striking, and you're trying to work out which one's which. And there's it looked like they had a kind of mad workshop behind them, lots of shelves, and it was very dark. And it was an article to do with their first feature film, Institute Benjamenta. And I think I also saw Alice Krieg, who stars in that, looking beautiful and mysterious. And it was one of those ones where I loved it, and a couple in front of me, as soon as the film finished, immediately had an argument about whether it was good or not, because one of them loved it and one of them thought, you know, I don't understand this at all. So, but I knew that they were for me. What I like most about the Quays, although I only realised this just coming up, is partly to do with where I grew up and how I grew up. My father was an antiques dealer, and I realise now that I grew up around very dusty old antiques and in a kind of other world, and a kind of magical world where there were lots of things around and you didn't know quite what they were for, tea caddies or candelabra and things like that. And their world is a kind of dusty Middle European world. It's a very enticing world because it seems a world that's lost. But I think if you look around the cities we live in, you know, London and Leeds, you do still see places that are little pockets of it. And I think that's what catches their eye. They're very keen on a Polish writer called Bruno Schulz, and he wrote a series of stories, Cinnamon Shops. And some of their films are like going into these strange dusty shops, and you can't believe they're still going. And what do they sell? Are they selling millinery, or are they selling something strange under the counter? And they have this very kind of poetic view of light and space, and it takes you into a completely different kind of Europe, really, even though they're from America. Well, I came to Leeds to see the Dormitorium Exhibition of the Quays, and it really does take you into the little micro worlds that they make. They make little sets, and they have these little figures that seem to be made out of protractors and things, and yet they make small worlds in order to project them huge. They've also worked quite a lot in opera. So I think there won't be any problem transferring this kind of tiny, detailed, dusty, magical world onto the canvas of Leeds. Within their world, within the world of animation, stop motion animation and that kind of cinema, the Quays are real gods. I mean, they're the kind of people that I know, younger animators, who think their work is the best there possibly is. And so for them to have an opportunity sort of bring people into their world that they haven't brought in before, you know, families with children who maybe this as a cinema is something they're not going to come across. It's not getting shown on TV. But if it's actually coming to them and they're there within it as if they were the actors, not as if they're just sort of passively watching it, but they're moving through it, and maybe it's just jumping out and surprising them. That seems to me incredibly exciting. I think OverWorlds and UnderWorlds is going to be fantastically exciting, and I mean that exactly, the word fantastically, because it's going to transform a familiar place that you walk through, you know, with your kids, or and you see every day when you're out shopping, into something that just nudges it slightly, as if your city's become another city, your world's become another world. And I think it brings out that kind of magical sense that children have when they're going to a place for the first time. It's as if they're seeing somewhere they could have a fantastic adventure, rather than just somewhere they're trogging through without really looking at it. And I think that's what I'm looking forward to. Leeds is somewhere I know a bit, but I'm hoping to come back to a transformed place, a place that has become even more magical.